Okay, folks, welcome again to our toy collector chat, and we're going to move forward this evening with part 2 of our history on Lincoln Toys. And last session we heard from Doug on the history of the company and the various other companies that were associated with Lincoln Specialties and Lincoln Toys. And so tonight we're going to have a photo review of their farm toy products. So tonight it'll be mostly related to farm toys, but and then in a couple of weeks, or not, 4 weeks from tonight, we'll have hopefully a presentation on the Lincoln trucks. So tonight is mainly a photo review of the farm toy products rather, and Doug has worked hard with a lot of other friends who will be acknowledged at the end of our presentation for sharing their photos and information. By all means, those who may have interesting tidbits about Lincoln Toys, you're invited to chip in either as the slides go through or at the end we'll have an informal discussion and go from there. So it's my pleasure to once again introduce Doug Dann to carry on with the portion of the product review of Lincoln Toys. And thank you again, Doug, for doing that. I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll let you carry on from here.
Well, thanks, Doug, and hi, everyone. Great to see everybody on tonight. The purpose tonight is to share information. We have a lot of pictures. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each picture, but I want to point out things. We have a number of slides that show variations of same models, and we've discovered, we think, a few new things to share with you, and I think we got some surprises maybe to show you later in the presentation. And again, as Doug has suggested, we'll take questions at the end, or Doug, if it works, maybe as I do each brand, maybe we can interject, but it's Doug Vincent's call how we do the questions and comments. My thanks to Doug for putting a PowerPoint together, and with that, we're going to begin here. We're going to start with some catalog slides. As you can see, there's a Lincoln 44, what we call the high arch model. More about that later with the implement set. Interestingly, the tractor was never sold with the implement set. More about that later. This catalog's from 1950-51. This slide, I'm not sure if there's Lincoln trucks in there. If somebody can verify yes or no later, that'd be good. But we put it in because it's a colorful ad. And interestingly, note the prices. Those top 4 trucks are fiction powered, 1950 or so. I think this is from, you could buy all those trucks for $779 delivered, and you'll see the prices of some of them other trucks. It's amazing what some of them would be worth now. Next. These are covers. If you're looking for catalogs, we put this in to show you how colorful these catalogs were for that era, like a lot of things then. 1956 Lincoln toy catalog cover to 1958 with a tow truck. Next. Oh, you'll notice these say Lincoln Specialties on them. Windsor, Ontario. Lincoln Specialty Limited, and all the advertising we can find never references Tilbury. It references Windsor. Next. This is from the 58 catalog inside page. You'll see 3 trucks at the top, tow truck versions. We put this farm set in. I've never seen this farm set. It has a Farm All H and a wagon, a mower, a disc, and a harrow, a very unique box, and we have a picture of that next. Here's 3 original Lincoln toys. As everybody knows, Lincoln toys are very, very hard to find in good original shape, let alone mint, and tonight we're fortunate to be able to show you. I think there's only maybe 2 or 3 repaints you're going to see tonight. Everything else is original, so we've tried to work hard to get good original toys for you to look at. We're going to talk about Massey. We're going to talk about Cockshut, Minneapolis, Moline, Farmall, John Deere, We have a section on rear tires, and we're going to be talking about farm sets, new in the box toys, decals, Lincoln, a rural Lincoln Combine, and we got a couple surprises. We have a bag cart and the wood Jeep, believe it or not, we talked about last time, and the all steel cannon. So don't go away. These are the common Massey 44 casting. This is the more detailed. You'll notice difference in tires on these two models. On the left's a wood wheel with a plain rear tire. This has the solid black smooth front tire. Tractor on the left has the same front wheel, but it's painted. And we have the rural wheel and tire on the back. Same castings, different wheels and tires. Next. I want to point out that this platform you see on the Oliver 77, which is a Lincoln, and the Massey on the right, of course, those platform fenders are the same. However, we have what we call the strap seat. That's the strap seat on the Oliver. It's a solid pan. On the Massey on the right, you'll see slots in the pan seat. That's because on those tractors, there's a spring that fastens from the platform up to the slots. That's how it's fastened on. I'm not aware of any Lincoln 77s with a spring seat. Next. On the right, of course, is original 44 Massey wood wheel version. This slide we're pointing out, that spreader looks like a Lincoln, but it is not. Lincoln and King spreaders are very similar. This is a King spreader. It has diamond tread tires on it. And the obvious way to tell a King spreader, which this is again, against a Lincoln, is on the bolts that hold the rear beaters in. Those bolts are a round, smooth head. I'll show you the difference here coming up. And the Kings appear to usually or always have the spring fastened to the beaters and a widespread to make them turn. Next. This is a close-up of the King spreader. It appears Lincoln, we believe, got their spreaders from King. And so they're very similar. So this is a Lincoln spreader here. Note that the Lincolns always use the square head type screw-in bolt, as you see in this picture. And these Lincolns usually will have the solid, smooth rib tire that you see in this picture. This one is painted with a yellow center on it. So usually I'm coming to the opinion, as shown in this slide, these are all original mint Lincoln toys. Those spreaders in the background are Lincolns, they're the same. And I'm starting to conclude that the Lincolns were not sold with springs around the beaters. I know a lot of them have been restored. Guys are putting springs on them. We sold all kinds of springs for these spreaders, and we had to part shop. So do what you want, but I'm starting to think that the Lincoln spreader never had springs. So we wanted to point those differences out tonight. And again, we'll talk more about the implements and upcoming. On the disc, as far as we know, the Lincoln frames for the disc are all the same. Here you see the Massey Harris and the Cockshot. I found no discernible differences between these discs, regardless what decals on them. The disc blades appear to be the same. Now, if I say something tonight you think is wrong, or you can add to it, feel free, because we want this to be educational and information that's factual we can all learn by. Next. This is the Cockshut set. These implements, we believe those front implements came from Slick. This is what we call the cast cutter bar on a mower. Note these implements all have a wire hitch, which was common. They could actually be hooked together. We have the Cockshut 95 wagon in the background. More about wagons later. This Cockshut 30 is sort of the common one. We want to talk just briefly about this particular tractor. I have an angle shot here for a reason. You can see the back seat I referred to earlier on the Lincoln Oliver as a strap seat. You can see the metal bracket that's curved around that holds that seat, more like the real tractor was. And that's what we call a strap seat. The front grille, I need to point out, we made a very interesting discovery, we being Ralph Jolly and myself recently. Note this front grille and check yours at home. There's what we call 14 indented slots in that front grille. However, we found another variation we did not know existed. So this is a 14 slot. Next slide. Here on the right, you'll see this is a different Cockshut 30, but same version as I just showed you. You'll see this has 14 slots on it. However, the tractor on the right has a different grille. You'll see 9 very distinct inserts. It's very distinct. We don't know why there's a difference in the grille. You'll see a crease line at the top of better separates the top sheet metal, or what would be the sheet metal on a real tractor and on this toy, as opposed to the tractor on the right. Okay, so the Cockshut here with the mufflers on it. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Next. Okay, tractor in the picture is the same tractor, just a better view. That has the cast-in muffler, aluminum muffler, and air cleaner. This picture was supplied to me by Doug Harkey. Thank you. It's Darryl Sykes' tractor. He's supposed to be on tonight as well. I don't know if he is or not. This Cockshut 30 version appears to be a harder version to find. So if you don't have one, start looking. The cast-in muffler air cleaner on a Cockshut 30 does not tend to be quite as common as the non-stack Cockshuts. This one has the wood wheel on the back. These 4 tractors look the same. They're not. Real quick, the 2 tractors on the right should have stacks on them, and those tractors in front again is that 9-slot grill with the cast-in stacks. The tractor in back of it has a threaded-in muffler and threaded-in air cleaner. The tires on these 3 tractors, the backs are all the same. The tractors on your left, the front one has smooth front rubber, like the ones on the other side of the picture. That tractor on the left in back has knobby front tires, and obviously the 2 tractors on the left have no stacks, and those are the common versions. Now, real quick, that tractor on your left in front, you'll notice have remnants, hardly any steering wheel left. That's something we think is new, and we're going to show you that next. Okay, this slide is of the mufflers again. Next. This tractor we've discovered, and I will sign my name, this is factory original. If anybody has ever seen one like this, let me know. First of all, the steering wheel post is slightly larger than the standard post on a Cockshut 30. And the steering wheel hub that's left, of course, the steering wheel's gone, but that steering wheel hub is actually plastic, and I contend it's factory original. When you look at the paint real close on the real toy, it's even more distinct in the picture. It looks like that steering wheel was put on, turned, twisted a bit, which would make sense, and the paint is swirled. There's no way that got done, and that is absolutely original paint on this tractor. So the question begs itself, are there Cockshut 30s out there with steering wheels that are plastic? This picture shows the strap seat that we mentioned, and it shows the gear shift, which interestingly is a nail. That's what they use for the gear shift on these, was a nail. Next. This picture, I think, help me out, that green tractor should be on your left.
No, it's on the right.
It's on the right, okay. Okay, so starting with the green tractor, this section's on tires. The John Deere's all used, as far as we know, the Firestone tire. I got close-up pictures of these later. The next tractor, that first cock shut, is the popular, commonly used Dominion Royal solid rubber tire. The next tractor over has a wood wheel with a plain tire. No, it's no brand name on that tire. And then the last tractor in the back has the what we call the Rule 44 wheel, that obviously came from Rule. That's nicely detailed tire, and a larger tire with a metal rim. Next. Maybe hard to see in the picture. If you angle your laptop screen some, you can see it better. But at the top of this picture, on top of the tire, there is inscription, and it reads Dominion Royal. And this tire appears to be used on quite a few of the cockshut Lincolns. Next slide. Same tire. This is on Oliver 77, but the same tire at the reverse bottom side of the tire. I turn this up. There's an inscription that reads Farm Tractor. So Dominion Royal tires will read both the brand name and Farm Tractor. I think I misspoke there. I think I said Farm Tire. My mistake. It's Farm Tractor. Next. This is the Firestone tire that was used on the John Deere A by Lincoln. I'm not aware of any other version on there. I think the odd time you see that, I've seen that on some of the Massey, what I call the potbelly aluminum standard tractor, whether it's, but I haven't seen it often. Here we have wagons. There's sort of what I'm going to call the generic wagon in terms of decal. The one that says Lincoln on it is what I refer to as a the generic wagon, barge wagon. It has knobby tires, and note the front hitch. While it looks similar to the other one, it has a metal strap that comes down to hitch to the tractor. The barge wagon that says Cockshut 95 has the same tires, but same hitch, metal hitch, but it uses the wire hitch to hook to the tractor. So two different hitch styles. And as far as I can tell, the Cockshut wagons always had, barge wagon always had Cockshut 95 on them. Next. There's just a closer up of everything I just mentioned. Here's a good detail of the hitch variations. This is the back. There's no consistency appears. We had a person confirm to me they had a friend who knew a salesman for Lincoln toys years ago, and he said some days anything went at the factory in terms of decals and tires. They used what they had. That might explain some of this. Could be different people doing decals. Who knows? Sometimes you see Lincoln decals on the back of a wagon. Sometimes you don't. This picture shows you the knobby tires. Next.
Do we have any questions at this point before we go into the next Minneapolis? Anybody have any comments or questions? If so, just push your space bar to toggle on your mic.
Am I on?
Go ahead.
The gauge of the sheet metal and the stiffness of the sheet metal on the Lincoln wagons was much stiffer than on the typical American wagons.
Yes, thanks, Doug. We're going to talk about that too later when we get to John Deere wagons. Thanks for pointing that out.
Anybody else?
And if there's anything that I've mentioned you think is not correct, we all learn, please correct me if I've got something that is not correct or whatever.
Okay, carry on, Doug.
Next, we're going to talk about the Moline, Minneapolis Moline Slick that Lincoln produced. It appears basically they probably just got the castings, of course, from Slick. Looks like maybe they might have put their own wheels on it. This is a beautiful R model. Darryl Sykes owns it. Doug supplied this picture for this presentation. Note the Lincoln decal. It looks consistent that the Lincoln decal was, and these decals do not have the Elwood. These are all the Tilbury logo, as I call it, where it says Made in Canada Lincoln Toy. That's on all these Moline slicks and wagons we're going to show you. Interestingly, note the rear tires, and on these tractors, these have what is believed to be the truck hub on the rear tire. Obviously, the Slick Lincoln Moline, you can see consistency of decals on most of those tractors on the hood. The tires appear to be the same all the way through. Note the color differences. There's red, there's yellow, there's orange. There's a tractor with wagon at the very back that's actually a very light blue, a beautiful light blue model. And then we have gray tractor and wagons as well. And you can see that Lincoln obviously done a pretty good job of getting decals on most of those toys. And we have two types of wagons here: the tilt bed with the Lincoln decal, which is the script type, on the gray wagon that you see over to the side in your picture. Next. Again, the decal, really good. We're showing you just so you get a good look at those decals. Made in Canada Lincoln Toy, and then made in trademark registered, and you'll see Windsor, Ontario. Nowhere do I ever find Tilbury, Ontario on quite a few of what is the straight Lincoln Toy decal. Next. We're now going to start looking at some farm sets. This is the original set of Massey Implements, although there's a tractor on the front cover, beautiful artwork. This is the set inside. My comment about maybe the Lincoln spreaders never had the springs to run the beaters is reinforced by this picture and some others you're seeing. But I need to note the Massey set had the spreader, the harrow, the mower, and the disc. Next. The Cockshut set had no tractor on it, of course. Interestingly, they call it a super farm set. And you'll see the Lincoln decal on the front cover. And in this set, we have the Cockshut 95 wagon and the harrow and the disc and the mower. And then I wondered, why wouldn't that have the spreader? Well, then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I guess I've never seen a Cockshut Lincoln manure spreader. If somebody has, it'd be nice if you point it out tonight. But it appears that that spreader must have only been available through the Lincoln Massey line, I'm assuming. Next. Here's a really unique set, again from Doug Harkey, compliments of Darryl Sykes. You saw a variety of colors in this set, which I find very interesting. Beautiful box, orange wagon, white wheels, gray tractor, gray planter, orange plow, and I'm assuming the harrow is either red or orange. I can't quite tell. I never knew this version color existed. This is the Farmall. These came from Hubley, I believe. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me. Interestingly, the wheels, rear tires on this tractor are much like used on some graders. This one, if I remember correctly, has solid rubber tires. The wagon has a generic Lincoln decal on the side, but interestingly on the front of that wagon, if you look closely, I'm pretty sure that's the traditional Lincoln wagon. So interesting. And here you'll see the Lincoln decals on top. Orange tractor with plastic rear grader type wheels. So there's two versions of wheels on those tractors. This wagon too has white wheels, and we have an orange planter there. Next. This is the farm set box. We apologize, we couldn't get a better picture, but we wanted to show it to you. There was a 5-piece set that the farm all came with, the tractor, of course, the wagon, and there was a disc, Harold's planter. Hard to tell. I had this all figured out in another picture I had, but anyways, I've never seen this set. Next. Here's, these tractors are the farm all, but interestingly, they're all different. Not only in color, but you'll see the two on the one side with the greater type rear tires. You'll notice the front tires are different sizes on some of these tractors. And the tractor, I don't know if it's on your left or right, but look for the tractor with very small rear tires on it, very small. Back and front tires are very small, and it's almost undersized, but it's all original. These tractors are all original. And then you've got in the middle of those three tractors, if you're looking top to bottom, that middle tractor has what is, I would say, the common rear tire with the dome hubs in them, as used on trucks, I'm told. And then we've got a tractor in back with the rule wheel and tire, which I've never seen those before. Next. I think these two tractors are cool. I love these two tractors. They're both original. The axles have never been played with or changed. Those came from the factory like that. You'll see the Lincoln decals on the hood, of course. Those are rule wheels and tires. We've got one tractor with red paint. The other one, for whatever reason, has orange rims with a red body tractor. They look like pulling tractors. Next. This picture shows you the tractor with the small tires. We wanted to show you just how small those tires are. Interestingly, these tractors have got decals on the bottom of the casting, but in different places. Excuse me. And then we have the common rear tire on the one tractor. Next. Now, here's a gray Farmall with the rule wheels in red, and a gray wagon with a generic Lincoln decal. I think we can conclude that all of us have got to do some more looking to find some of these toy versions that you're seeing, because some of these I've never seen before. And I'll Simon into it. They are original. I put information here is simply we've got two wagons with white wheels. It appears the wagons are more apt to have black wheels, as you see in the picture, and there's actually 3 different sizes of black wheels, and I've got pictures coming up to better show you that. This is the back. You'll see the white wheel compared to what is the common smooth rubber tire. And interestingly, note the 2 different decal sizes on these wagons. Next. This is the flare box wagon, which seems to be harder. And as Doug pointed out earlier, these flare box wagons are much heavier than they're a heavier gauge steel, and they're actually fairly heavy. You'll notice these have got decals on the back of them. None of them positioned, none are located the same. And this picture shows you that the 3 wheels, first find the wagon with the small skinny tires. That's a small tire version, and it is a knobby tire. Then we've got a knobby tire in the middle, and over on the other side, we've got the larger, what I call a smooth tire. So 3 different wheel versions, lots of variations in these barge wagons and in these flare box wagons. And these tailgates are hinged on the flare box version. Next. We're going to talk about farm sets. This is a really neat ad from Christmas time. fall, winter 1948, 49. Hopefully you see that on the screen. This set was available for the low price of $2.19, and it was a feature value at Toyland. This is got a Lincoln wagon with Lincoln decals, Dobby tires, and this is what I tend to call the more common version of the potbelly aluminum Massey that was first made by Lincoln. It has smooth front tires, and it has the smaller back wheels, and it has what we call the standard tire. And you can tell this one has threaded stacks, and it has the spring seat, of course. Next. Here's the real thing. This set came together from new, played with a bit, but very, very nice set. And it has the optional tilt steering wheel. I don't know how common that is. I think that's from play. Here's a beautiful original box and the same casting, but this time we have different fenders, what we call more of the shell fender or crown fender. And this has Dominion Royal tires on the back, knobby front tires, and just a beautiful, beautiful mint tractor and box. Closer detail, Massey did a really nice job with their graphics, and that real tractor is detailed very nicely on that box. The end of the boxes, there's actually two different boxes in this slide presentation of these tractors, but you'll note that here, this confirms the role of Lincoln Specialties that we talked about last time in the history section. They were the marketers. For those of you on tonight for the first time with this presentation, Lincoln Specialty was the marketing distributor for Lincoln Toys. Lincoln Toy Company was owned by the Kimberleys. They made toys, as did Elwood Toys, who were located first in Windsor and then in later years in Tilbury, and they made a lot of trucks and toys as well. They were the major suppliers, they being Lincoln Toys and Elwood Toys were the major suppliers. There's some others too, but those two companies I mentioned were the major suppliers to Lincoln Specialties, who again distributed these toys, and as indicated on this box. And again, we see the traditional Made in Canada Lincoln Toys logo on this box. Next. This was a set that came together from day one. Again, original Massey 44 with the rule wheels and a Lincoln spreader. Now this one has springs on it. I don't know if they were added or if it came that way. Draw your own conclusion with the springs. I think they look neat with the springs, but what really they came with out of the factory, maybe some did, some didn't. But interestingly, where we know in this presentation, we have these spreaders brand new in a box, and or we know they're mint toys. None of them had springs on them. Next. This slide, we want to talk about the two different Massey tractors and a little more in depth before we finish the Masseys here. Again, we've talked about the tractor with the taller tires with die-cast stacks with a wood hub. Again, that rear tire has no inscription on the tire. It's just a plain tire, but nice detail to lug. Over the smaller tractor, again, is what we call the potbelly aluminum tractor. That was the first casting that Lincoln did. And I believe they were first made in Windsor at Lincoln Toy. This one has a threaded in muffler and air cleaner. And you'll see this one has the Firestone rear tire as also used on the John Deere A. Both nice original toys. Next. This is a rare version. If any of you ever find one of these, this is actually a 444. The decal is worn off a bit. but this is absolutely a 444 tractor. How do we know that? Because the 444s had a bronze engine. So this is referred to sometimes as the bronze engine Lincoln Massey. It has rule tire and wheel on the back. And these are very hard to find. And I highly suggest, if you're into these Lincoln toys, that's a model you definitely want to find and buy if you can. Next. This picture I put in simply to show you how detailed the lug tires are, and look at the nice detail on the back hub on the inside of that metal rim. You can see splines on it. Next. This is absolutely gorgeous. 44 Massey with a gray loader, wood wheels, mint. Obviously, they put the decals on a little bit cockeyed at the factory, but a beautiful, beautiful tractor and box. I've never seen this box until we found this one. Have a good look. We're going to talk a bit about the tractors, the Masseys that came with loaders and blades. I don't think there's any cock shuts that had loaders and blades, but I could be wrong. First, the tractors, 3 of these tractors have wood wheels. And then the Massey tractor with the yellow blade has Dominion Royal tires on it. Some of you may want to comment on this. I suspect Doug Harkey may have comment here if he wishes to add, but it appears that possibly most of the Massey tractors that had loaders and blades maybe had wood wheels. It seems like quite a few had wood wheels, but obviously we know that some of the other wheel versions, particularly the Dominion Royal, was available. I'm not totally sure if there's any with the rule wheels. It could be. Interestingly, as mentioned, we have both gray and yellow. So you can actually get quite a few variations of these tractors when you look at wheel differences, and if they're equipped with which color loader and blade, you could come up with quite a few variations. Something more to collect, folks. Next. This, I think I would be remiss tonight if I didn't talk about this casting just a bit more. Again, as mentioned, this is the first casting we believe Lincoln did, but here's 3 versions that we know of. Well, the castings are the same. The wheels are different. Stacks are the same. We've got spring seats on them all. But here again, we see the high arch. That's the taller tractor in the back. With the Dominion Royal tire, it sets the tractor up higher. It has what I call more of a row crop type fender, as is the small tractor in the back with row crop fender with a Firestone tire. And the tractor in front, again, has Firestone tire. But this time you can see the full crown, what we call the traditional standard fender. That's the 3 versions we're aware of. Next. We want to talk about, we think this is a bit of a surprise tonight, we hope. Your first inclination might be there's a rule combine. Well, you're partly right. Yes, it's a rule combine, but this one is done for Lincoln. You may or may not know, well, there's actually 3 differences on a Lincoln rule combine compared to the traditional rule combine. This combine is absolutely meant, and if you had a box, it wouldn't be ordered to put this one in a box. So the first difference, which you can see, is the seat location. The operator's seat on this Lincoln is moved forward. On a rule, for whatever reason, Lincoln moved the seat forward as compared to the rule, which has the seat back closer or fairly tight to the front of the grain tank. So seat location is one difference. The second difference, the decal. We'll go to the next slide. on a rule, the American, I'm going to call American rule, as far as I know, that combine only has Massey Harris on it. On this particular combine, you see the grain sheaf with a model number 90 SP, SP for self-propelled. The Canadian version, this is the decal on the Lincoln rule. The American version, again, just Massey Harris. Next, I think that slide shows you how nice this combine is. Now, on the bottom, I had a hard time turning a very nice toy over, to be truthful. It almost pained me, but we had to take a picture of that decal. You can see it's centered in the bottom of the grain head. And next slide, please. You can see how nice that decal is. And I looked at that extremely close. That decal is original. That decal has not been added. That came out of the factory like that. If that toy was ever played with, I don't think it did too many acres. So you can see how Lincoln, it appears to me, really tried to brand their farm toys solely with a Lincoln toy name on it, all out of Windsor. So it brings up the point, I still have not, further to the last Zoom chat, I still have not been able to verify if in fact there were Lincoln farm toys that were made by Elwood in Tilbury. So that remains a bit of a mystery. Next.
Any questions
Next
while
slide.
we're at the end of this section? If so, hit your space bar to turn your mic on.
Yes, I've got a comment on a self-propelled combine. That's actually the earlier
Back
of
up
the
to
two
it, Doug.
rule versions.
Go ahead, Doug, sorry.
Okay, you need to go back further to the front view. Okay, that's the earlier of the American versions where the seat wasn't on the grain tank. The later American version had the seat on the grain tank and the body of the combine was wider and the real drive was on the left side. There was another pulley and shaft which came out on the left side that drove the reel.
Thank you, Doug. That's good information to know. I wasn't aware of that, and I've rarely ever seen rule combines. I got to pay more
I want to
attention.
make another comment.
Go ahead.
The way Lincoln got these molds was Lincoln had Massey had a falling out with Rule. Massey wanted Rule to incorporate at least the 44 Special and the 444 as the later Massey models, and Rule didn't want to do that. The cost of changing the tooling was too expensive, and it turns out that Massey owned the tooling for these toys. And so when they discontinued their agreement with Rule, that's how Lincoln got them. They gave the tooling to Lincoln, and that's how Lincoln got the combines and also the rear wheels for the tractors.
Hey, thanks, Doug. Good information. We're going to talk about the Lincoln John Deere A's. Last time we talked about it. This red A has the Firestone tires, but there's no yellow on the hub. A lot of years ago, however, it was messed up on the outside, but inside that casting was still original red. It was definitely red paint from the factory. So a decision was made to redo this tractor. The other green tractor, of course, is original. There's no differences between those two tractors as far as I can tell. The wagons in the back are heavy gauge steel, and you'll see a little different tongue mechanism on them. And there's two different wheels, and we'll go ahead to the next slide and talk more about those wagons. Here you can see the running gear looks similar to an arcade. We're not sure if it is though. If somebody clarify that, feel free.
That's what Dale made
Showed you
for ESCA.
Oh, the early one. Yeah. Okay. And Doug, note that tongue. You think that was the Carter one?
No, that apparently was something that Lincoln must have.
Yeah. Okay. That's our suspicion. That's a Lincoln hitch. So here you can see the distinct difference in those two tires. It's pretty obvious. Note that tailgate is hinged, but there's a metal flap that comes down underneath the flare box portion, and those fit very, very tight. Something a little bit different there. Also note on these wagons, the John Deere decal is very, very low on the flare box side. Again, you can see the differences in the tires. If you ever find one of these, pick them up because these are not very common. Here's some farm sets. These sets have the high arch wheel Massey 44 in them. And again, and please note, and I think Doug Harkey would verify this because some of this I've learned through him. The farm sets and through others, and Ralph Jolly says the same, that the in this picture depicts that. The Cockshut and the Massey tractors were sold separate in the box. And if you wanted the implements, they came in a farm set. And it appears that the implements were never sold in individual packages. So apparently it seems fairly accurate that those implements all came in the farm sets as you've seen tonight. Notice the Massey Harris flare wagon as well in that last picture. That has Massey Harris. So you've got a John Deere wagon to find, and you've got a Massey Harris flare box wagon. Okay, next. This is the Cockshut set, just to re-verify what we said. And here's a set. I put this in. I forget what year this catalog is. It's out of the 50s. You'll see prices for the sets. And over on the side, note that Farmall set with 3 pieces. That set was $3.29 at the time. And then at the bottom, you'll see some Lincoln toys. And the set in the middle has a 44 with rule wheels. And again, there's that Massey Harris flare box wagon, and notice the size of those decals on that wagon. Next. Here is an absolutely stunning mint set. I kid you not. I think the picture says it all. Beautiful. And again, that set came with a Cockshut 95 wagon. That wagon is a different one. That's not all the set. Here's a really neat ad. Doug Harkey's used this before in Toy Farmer and compliments the Toy Farmer and the work they do tonight. Kathy's on, great to have her with us. And Doug has had this in Toy Farmer in the past. And this is a really, really nice ad, I think, that shows the Cockshut farm implement set. Note the price of the tractor, $1.80. And kit of 4 implements was $3.20. Next.
$5 catch the works.
Next. Here's a farm set with a high arch that you just saw. And here's some more ads that we put in. The wood wheel 44 at top, a wood wheel with scraper blade, and at the bottom is a loader tractor. Next. Here's a beautiful set that was played with by a couple brothers, and one of the brothers is online tonight, and I'd like him to just quickly share some history about these toys. And the question begs itself, were they repainted by the owner or those original? Were you guys easy on toys or no?
Well, they were all repainted. I own the a tractor like the one in front, and my brother owned the rest. For those Canadians, I was given mechano sets for Christmas ever since the late 40s up to 1955. My brother, who was somewhat younger, got the rest of the tractors and the implements. And all of them disappeared in one of my brother's marital problems. And over the years of coming to the Canadian shows and buying parts from Hilke and Doug, I was able to assemble this complete assortment of what I think we had when we were kids.
Thanks, Doug. Beautiful set. Here's some more farm sets, and this shows the the John Deere A, which I didn't know was available as a set with the tilt dump cart type trailer, and it has a Lincoln toy decal as well on that cart. And there's the John Deere Lincoln A with a Lincoln wagon. That's the same wagon you saw earlier. Not the same wagon, but the same style wagon that you saw with the Massey set earlier tonight. Next. We're going to talk about boxes. This is a very interesting box. This box, you see member on it. What's this about? Underneath, you'll see this toy was made in Canada. And on the end of the box flap, vertically, you can read Massey Harris Tractor. So, what's the story here? Underneath the maple leaf, you see the words, the Canadian Playthings Manufacturer, Inc. That was an industry association where toy manufacturers in Canada belonged to it. And obviously somewhere in the past, they did a toy. Whether they did others, we have no idea. But they obviously had a Massey, Lincoln Massey 44 tractor that went in that box. I've never seen this box before till I was in this collection, and I had to have a picture of it. Next. Here is a mint 44, mint as you can get it, with the original box. Not very often do we see a Lincoln tractor with a box. This box is really, really nice. We've actually shown you two different boxes tonight. They look the same, but there's two different boxes. And there again, we talked about this earlier, but I put this in because that box is about as mint as you're probably going to find. Again, Lincoln specialty. They made it clear who was putting these toys out. Doug Harkey, if you would, I'd like you to have the honors of doing this picture. Just tell us the story of the tractor and box. I'm going to talk a bit more about the actual A and show and share the Erdl story in relation to Lincoln. I'll do that. But if you want to mention when this tractor and box was taken, this is, yeah, go ahead, Doug, if you would. If you don't want to do it, I'll do it. But I'd like you to do the story. This tractor
appeared on eBay about 15 years ago, and the bidding was pretty strong on it. And it sold, this was about 15 years ago, it sold for $775 on eBay. And I wish I would have pushed the bid further, because for many of us, it's the only time Erickson out of Minnesota ended up with it.
Hey, thanks, Doug. Okay, here is the larger tractor is the Erdl A. Joe Erdl talked about this in our history. Apparently he's maybe not on tonight, so I'll tell the story he told. The smaller tractor, of course, is the Lincoln A. It's generally acknowledged, and Joe basically confirmed it, because he said that Erdl Company never sold their Erdl A to Lincoln. It's generally felt and believed, and I believe it too, that Lincoln must have got a hold of and it generally it's regarded, it's just slightly smaller in size from the Ertl A, which I think this picture shows very well. It's slightly smaller, and the Ertl A is a 16th scale. So if they copied it, it would obviously make sense that the casting would be slightly smaller. Then Lincoln put their own wheels and tires on the A. Interestingly, over the years, I've seen different original Lincoln A tractors. Some have decals, some do not. I haven't figured out the rhyme, the reason of that. I've also seen them where the decal's on one side, not on the other. Draw your own conclusion. Now, how do you tell? And I'll show you more differences between these two castings. This is the Lincoln A. Note not only the Firestone tire, which has a lot of detail. Please look at that clutch pulley just at the front part of the tire, that round circle where that's what we call the clutch pulley. That clutch pulley, the face of it, the casting is absolutely smooth. There's nothing cast in that face of that clutch pulley. Up above the clutch pulley, you'll see part of the engine, that's a distributor, and up on the back side of the hood, you'll see a rivet. I call that, right or wrong, I call that an indented rivet. Please make note of the design of that. So that not only the tire, the clutch facing I talked about, and that rivet. Okay, here's the Ertl A. You can see a completely different tire style. That's a traditional Ertl tire they were using at the time. On the clutch pulley facing, you can see, might be hard, but you can see letters there. And on the Ertl version, it says made in the USA. So obviously Lincoln, if they copied this casting, which we think they did, they obviously are just up in the hood area. You can see that rivet is more of a traditional rivet type, smooth round-headed rivet. So those are the differences. That's how you can tell those two tractors apart. These are Lincolns. The Olivers, the last ones we're doing tonight. There's 3 Lincoln 77s here. They're all there for a reason. Interestingly, these are rare tractors to find. I think everybody's aware of that. We had a grandmother bring us 3 Lincoln steering wheels and seats that we were selling. My wife did her absolute best to try and buy those toys or to trade brand new toys we were selling for fair market value at the time for those 3 Lincolns. Interestingly, the grandmother said, nope. She says, my children played with these. If you got the parts, I'm buying them. And we did have the parts. She says, I'm taking these 3 Lincoln Oliver 77s home. We'll put the parts on. They're going back in the toy box and the grandkids are going to play with them. That's the last we ever saw of the grandmother, was that day we sold the parts. This true story, this front 77 has the rule tires, and I doubt that's very common to find that version. The back 2 have the Dominion Royal, which is the ones you tend to see most of the time, I feel. You'll note we've got black tire on 2 of these, front tire, and on 1 red. And something I didn't point out tonight too much, but I'm sure you've noticed, there's no consistency in the Lincoln front tires, whether they're painted or not. It seems like whatever they had is what they used. The back tire, the back tractor is a famous tractor. More about that in a minute. So the tractor in the middle of that last slide was a Goodison Industries Limited. Not all these Lincolns have that decal. If you're not aware of it, Goodison Industries Limited was based here in Ontario, Canada, not far from Windsor, actually, or down that area. If you're not familiar with Windsor, we've got a number of U.S. friends on tonight. Windsor, Ontario is just across the river from Detroit, Michigan. Any of these Lincoln 77s are very valuable and worth collecting, and particularly too if you can find them with good Goodison Industry Limited decals. They were simply the distributor for the real Oliver toys for a long time here in Ontario. Next. This is the famous tractor I mentioned 2 slides ago. This is the particular tractor that was in Ray Crilly's book that they did years ago. Burkholder, I think, was involved. This is the tractor that was pictured. That book was done way back, gosh, I think sometime in the 1980s. So I put this in for because of the history behind it. Next. This is another Lincoln. This is the 4th one we're showing you tonight. It too is a Goodison Industry. I actually own this one. Took me about 5 years to get it bought, but it has the red front tire, big tire. And I'm showing this for a reason because we got another version we're going to show you next. That's the front. Lincoln decal grills were very detailed, like the real thing. I always thought they were kind of neat front decals. Next. Here's a Lincoln 77. Interestingly, it's a Goodison one. That does have the decal on the far side, but this has a red front tire, but much, much, much smaller. Next slide. We'll show you the tractor from the other side. And there's a story behind it, and I seem like I'm picking on Doug Harkey quite a bit tonight, but Doug, you have some history on this about those tires. These have got to be extremely rare because it's the only one I'm aware of. Any comment, Doug? If so, please feel free to share.
Well, a few years ago on an online auction, I bought a box of toys. People thought I was crazy. I paid about $500 for the box of toys. And this was in there. I knew that that was in there, as well as some other valuable toys. And that's completely original. That's the only one of the Lincolns I've ever seen with those small, I would call them slick front wheels.
This is Lincoln bag cart. We don't know too much history, but I have a very credible source that says that definitely was made by Lincoln. If anybody has anything to add to that, feel free when we're done with the slides here very shortly. Next. Okay, we talked about these toys at the last Zoom chat on history. If you weren't with us at that time, real quick, the Cannon is regarded as the first all-steel toy that Lincoln Toys made. That was apparently a revolving, I forget what they called it, but a revolving cannon toy, and more about that in a minute. The blue vehicle you see is this famous wooden Jeep. First one I've ever seen. I was very fortunate to track down these toys and get pictures to show you. It's all wood, the wheels are wood. The only thing not wood is that windshield on it. I've got closer up pictures of both these toys. Next slide. Interestingly, I assumed to see Lincoln Toys on this for a decal, and you can see it says Elwood Products, Windsor, Ontario. In 1945-46, Elwood was going by Products, and they were in Windsor, and then later years, they outgrew a factory in Windsor and they moved out to Tilbury. We tend to equate Lincoln Toys to Tilbury, Ontario, which is about 28 miles east of Windsor. But obviously, Elwood made this Jeep, which again got sold through Lincoln Specialties. Next picture. This is the Cannon. You can see that Cannon does have the straight Lincoln toy decal on it. Next. This is the Jeep again. Notice the side that steering wheel's on. rather interesting. My thanks to Doug Vincent. He's worked great with me and he actually put the PowerPoint together. I sent him the pictures, he inputted it all, and together we put the order together. My sincere thanks and appreciation to the following people: Doug Harkey, Ralph Jolly, Darryl Sykes, and Bruce Tushak. And it's been a fun project, a couple weeks. Thanks for your patience tonight. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll turn it back to Doug Vincent.
Well, thanks, Doug. That was a great opportunity for us to see some really rare Lincoln toys. And not only were some of them rare, but some of them, in fact, most of them were in almost mint or new condition. So I know Doug and friends have worked a lot to try and get you some good photos of quality toys in the Lincoln product line. So we're very happy and appreciative of Doug and friends for doing that. Thank you so much, Doug. Do we have any Lincoln collector experts who want to make any comments? If so, just push your space bar to turn on your microphone. Otherwise, then we'll have some questions and answers if there are any.
You did a fantastic job on this presentation, Doug.
Well,
I learned a lot. It's the first time I ever saw those John Deere
really
flare box wagons.
Okay.
I just have one comment. The hand cart that you had there, what size is it?
It appears to be 1/16 scale. Well, I'm told it's 1/16. Has anybody ever seen one?
Well, the only place I saw one was with a Canada Dry truck.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe it was red, so I'm thinking maybe a Lincoln Coca-Cola truck.
Possibly. There was no Lincoln decals on this bag cart. I don't know where you could put a decal. There was nothing in the metal like an imprint.
Thank you.
I have one. It's about 6 inches long. There it is.
Ah, perfect. Thanks, Doug.
So it's a little bigger than 16.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. That's the second one I've ever seen. Doug,
Thanks for sharing that, Doug. That was great.
Do you know any history about that?
Dad had it. I don't know where he got it.
Found it at one of the toy shows at one time, but it was sold to me as a Lincoln.
Yeah.
That's what I took it as, and I've never seen another one other than that.
Yeah. Great.
I've
That's
got a
what's
different-
fantastic about this hobby.
The other thing I was going to mention also, I was at an auction where one of those cannons appeared,
Yeah.
and it sold for a great sum of $40, and that was about 2 years ago. But at the same one, there was a scout car made,
Okay.
all out of wood, and it was a sample of something they were going to make, but they never put into production. Even that stuff shows up.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing, Wayne.
Well, look at what we've learned. A couple of these Zoom sessions on Lincoln Toys, and I got to commend Doug Vincent for taking the initiative to do this Zoom thing. I haven't been on them all, but I think it's amazing what we're all learning as we share. Back to Doug Vincent.
Absolutely. If anybody's got any ideas or something they want to share, we're more than happy to include you in the presentations. Anybody who wants to share their collection some night or share a part of the hobby that they're passionate about, they're more than welcome. So any other questions?
Yeah, I just had one, Doug. It was interesting about the 9-slot cockshot. I do have one, but the hitch is quite a bit different.
Really?
There's the two together. One's got just a hole drilled in it,
Yeah.
and the other one's got a long slot drilled in it. So that's another one for the nine
Super.
slot versus the 14.
We're-
And just one other little oddity I have. I actually have it's a green barge wagon, but it has Massey Harris decals on it.
Great.
So it must have been a Friday or a Monday morning. I'm not sure which, but that's the two oddities I have in my collection here.
I think that's what we've learned through this and through people that have info that I'm not saying it was helter skelter at Lincoln Toys, but the source back to the Lincoln Toy salesman that they used what they had those particular days or weeks seems to obviously had a bearing on what got produced, just like what Bruce just showed us.
I was going to mention that the Massey 44 casting, the Massey 44 castings have different length hitches on. Some of the later tractors had a much longer hitch with.
So during the whole thing, the oldest toy that I have is actually Massey 44 that my dad had as a kid, and it's in remarkable shape for being played with. And he actually had to hide it from his step siblings because they tormented my dad and his brothers and sister. So they basically destroyed anything they had, and my dad hid it, and I ended up with it, and that's by far. And I do have the wagon too, and it's got the Lincoln stickers on the side and everything, like Doug pointed out, and yeah, so that's by far the oldest piece that I have in my collection. So I'm actually very, it's interesting to learn some of this new stuff. Like the newer toys and whatnot, but
Sean, can you show us
that's
the hitch?
by far the oldest piece in my collection.
Sean, you mentioned something about the hitch, but we didn't see it at the start.
See, that's the real
Yeah.
long hitch version, which seems to be a later casting. Show it from the top also. No, the hitch. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there. Okay.
So like
there
that.
you can see how long that hitch is, how long that slot is. And most of those came with rule wheels on the back with a long hitch.
Oh, okay.
So if there's nothing else in the way of Lincoln questions or comments, I guess we'll call it a night. Thank you again to Doug, Dann, and Helke and friends for helping organize all those photos. And I think it was a great job, Doug. You shared a lot of new and different information that many of us didn't know. Also, thanks to Doug Harkey for chiming in with his large wisdom and knowledge on these older toys. And we'll say goodbye to everybody and see you in a couple weeks. Okay, take care.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Right.
Thanks, Doug. And thanks, Doug.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
thanks, Kathy, for coming.